just checking to see if the angle looks nice, you know. I need to fix my posture. Hey guys, welcome back. So if you guys are new here, my name is Regella. This is my channel. I still haven't thought of like an intro. I don't know how to do an introduction to my videos. I find this stuff so awkward, but hey guys, welcome or welcome back. This is my second video on my channel, and I thought that for anyone that is new here, I'd kind of introduce myself and basically give a testimony as to why I gave my life to Christ. I think the main thing that I want to make sure that I'm showing on this page is Jesus. I want to give you guys the ups, the downs, just show you the realness of what it's like to, you know, follow Christ, to not sugarcoat anything, to show the struggle. I'm going to be giving you guys my testimony, and I just pray that whatever I say, something relates to at least someone is able to find comfort in my testimony, and by the grace of God, God will glorify himself whilst I speak, and yeah, you guys will just hear what he has done for me and my life, for the change that he has made, because ooh, wow, that, yeah, God is so good. And I've actually already shared my testimony before on TikTok, but I kind of wanted to go into like a bit of a backstory of how I grew up, some things that I faced, some things that I struggled with. And yeah, I also have peppermint tea, because it's supposed to help you stop bloating. I don't know if it's working. Maybe, I feel like it might be. I don't know, but I have it on the floor. I'm just waiting for it to cool down. But yeah, enough ramble. Let's just go into this testimony, please. So growing up, I grew up in a Catholic household. I wasn't Christian. I was brought up in a Catholic household, basically. I'm Lithuanian as well, so it's kind of like the tradition to be Catholic, European, all that stuff, yeah. And I had my first Holy Communion when I was in like year 4, and me and my family would go to church here and there, but only really on special occasions. And then once I grew up, we kind of just stopped going as much, because there was just no point of us going anymore. I remember when I was younger, I actually didn't really like church. I thought that was quite boring. Like, I remember when I was younger, when my mom told me I had to have my first Holy Communion, I got told I had to be in church once every like 6 weeks, once every 4 weeks. I literally said to my mom, I hate church. And my mom was like, sis. So obviously, yeah, that's kind of like a bit of a backstory of my upbringing. I wasn't really brought into Christ. I didn't really know much about the Bible. The only like story that I remember is Daniel in the Lion's Den, because that was a story that I remember we had to read when I was doing my first Holy Communion, like practices. We had to go to like school for it, something like that. So yeah, that's the only book that I actually remember. So growing up, I was actually very bubbly. I was very loud. I still am now. I was very loud, very bubbly. I was always happy, always talking. My teachers always used to like write in my reports that she's so bubbly, she just talks too much, and like stuff like that. So I was a very happy girl, you know. I was just, yeah, I was really just loud and everything. But I feel like a lot of that, as I got older, was kind of just almost like, I guess, a mask to cover up the fact that I was actually very insecure. I feel like for someone that came across as very loud and bubbly, you know, there was actually much deeper layers that I didn't really show anyone, because I didn't want to. So growing up, I was actually extremely insecure. And when I tell you guys like extremely, I mean extremely. To the point whereby it's also because of the way that I've kind of grown up insecure, it's come with me into my walk with Christ, and that is something that I'm still trying to figure out, still trying to work on. And by the grace of God, I'll post a video very, very soon speaking about self-confidence and tips and stuff like that. Growing up, I was extremely insecure. I hated my body specifically. I wasn't big, but I guess I just hadn't morphed into my body yet, and I was quite chubby, so I hated that. Like, I literally hated every part of me, and yeah, I didn't know how to fix it because I was young. Like, I was literally insecure from like, I think I want to say year 6 primary school. Like, I was already looking at myself like, why am I tall? Why am I, obviously I'm not tall now, but for that age I think I was too tall, and I was bigger than everyone else, and all the girls in my class, they were tiny. Like, they were small, petite, cute. Even in secondary school, all my friends were so small. Like, all my friends were so cute and small. They all had boyfriends, or, you know, boys liked them. And I was just there like a potato. Like, I literally felt like a potato in front of my friends because no one really showed me attention. No one really liked me. And I honestly, I didn't like myself. So I guess that kind of like spoke out physically, I guess. I don't know. And I struggled with weight and I struggled with my eating. I really struggled with overeating. But I guess it just didn't really become apparent to me when I was younger. I wasn't even necessarily overeating. I was just eating very unhealthily and I wasn't essentially being stopped, I guess. And then when it got into lockdown times was when I then started to, obviously, you know, I was quite young. So I thought like, okay, cool, lockdown. Let me lock in. Let me get the workouts in. Bear in mind, I was like 14. I was very young. Maybe 13. I don't know. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I started doing the Chloe Ting workouts. Let me tell you one thing about what those workouts made me so unbelievably insecure. I don't want to say that it's Chloe's fault. Bless her. She was just trying to, you know, get the girlies, get some abs. But I genuinely believe that if I do this workout, if I do this, if I lock in for 2 weeks, I'm going to come out with abs. I'm going to come out with six pack. Sis did not come out with any six pack. I was so like, yeah, it was bad. Like, I remember I was so young and I was like waking up early in the mornings doing workouts outside of my garden, feel like, yeah, like I'm that girl, like I'm gonna be so skinny, I'm gonna be so petite, because I idolized a tiny body. Like, I wanted to be tiny, I wanted to feel I wanted to feel loved, I wanted to get attention from people, I wanted to love myself, and I thought that the only way to actually like myself was to lose a bunch of weight and work out and stuff like that. But because I was so young, I didn't even understand the whole process, the whole thing of like going to the gym and also eating healthy and combining those two together. I didn't know what, I don't know, I don't want to, I was about to say I didn't know what weightlifting was and protein powder. I barely know what that stuff is now. So it's like, but yeah, like I didn't know how to do anything. So I was just working out, but I wasn't eating healthy. And yeah, it was just really bad. It was so bad. And I remember there's like snaps in my snap memories still to this day. Maybe I delete them, but there's literally snaps of me in my mirror in my room, and I would do like progress pictures every single day. There was even one day where like I remember I actually was feeling really insecure, and I posted a picture being like, not feeling good today. Bear in mind, those pictures, right, if I look back at them now, don't get me wrong, I was a little bit chubby, but in my mind, the devil genuinely made me believe that I was 10,000 times bigger than I actually was. So I had like body dysmorphia to the max. Like, I genuinely obviously I wasn't petite, I wasn't skinny, but I genuinely believed that I was way bigger than I actually was. And if I look back at those pictures now, I look at them and think, yes, sis, you have a belly on you, but what do you expect? You're growing. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone's gonna have a skinny stomach. No one's gonna have a flat stomach. You eat, you're obviously gonna be bloated. Being so young, I didn't know any of these things. So I was just super insecure. And then throughout lockdown, I made new friends. I started to hang out with them and stuff like that. And then I actually grew in my confidence a lot. I entered like such a cute little phase where like I was just out with my friends, you know, living life. Shein had just come out, so I was dressing up in all the Shein clothes. I felt like I was some trendy girl. Like, I felt like I was that girl. And yeah, my summer was great. But I was actually dreading going back to school because I knew that it wouldn't be fun. And then actually when I went back to school, it ended up like that year that I came back from lockdown ended up being like probably one of the worst years of my entire life. Obviously now I don't really remember much from that year, but I remember when I was living in that year, it was awful. It was horrible. I was bullied for a time. I ended up becoming very insecure because during lockdown, I ended up putting on a bit more weight. So by the time that I came back to secondary school, yeah, man. And what's worse is the fact that it was literally just boys that were bullying me. It was just boys. So the fact that boys were even bullying me actually made me have a now like massive hatred for men. I think because I was so insecure, I wanted to lay out my insecurities on others, and I truly believed that a man would only like you if you were attractive, and he would only be friends with you if you were attractive, because that's the way that most boys in the world were like, and they knew no better, to be honest. So I can't really blame them. Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna judge. it as well. But yeah, because of that, I grew like a massive hatred for men. But for me, I don't know why, but I just hated them because they didn't like me. They didn't find me attractive. They didn't want me. They wanted all the other small, petite, skinny girls. They wanted the quiet girls. And I was loud. And when I tell you, when I came back from lockdown, the personality I inhabited was just like, I was not nice. I was quite rude. And I was annoying. Obviously, now looking back at it, I was young. Like, I was actually just young. I was just a girl. I'm allowed to be annoying. I'm still annoying now. I'm still loud now. So all those things is kind of like, okay, that was just me. But obviously coming back and the people that were around me, the specific school that I even went to, it was just kind of like, yes, you're doing too much. So I don't think anyone really liked me, boys wise. And that made me just so unbelievably insecure, on top of also being bullied. Like, I don't know, I don't really speak about the fact that I got bullied a lot, but it was bad. Like, I was being made fun of for like my hands, to my forehead, to my hair, to my body, to my weight, to my lips, to my like, there was one time I remember, it was like towards the end of the school year, I was walking out my classroom and boys were literally making boys were literally making noises at me, but they were making, yeah, I don't even want to say because it's so embarrassing, but they were literally making noises at me as I was walking out the classroom. Yeah, so I hated myself and I would literally cry all the time when I was home, and I hated being in my skin. I don't know how to explain it, but I genuinely felt uncomfortable to live in my own skin. I couldn't look in the mirror. I hated looking at myself, and when I did, I would literally just look at my body and be like, this is disgusting, this is gross, like, this is not good. And then in year 9, I ended up trying to starve myself, but then I can't remember how long that lasted for, but I did try to starve myself for a time. But then I ended up telling my mom about some stuff that I'd been going through mentally, and my mom had to actually now check up on me, make sure that I was eating, because I did not want to eat. And I think after a while of like trying to not eat as much, your body kind of grows an intolerance to just like being okay with not eating. So yeah, I wasn't even hungry at times, and I'd be like, oh, I'm so skinny, like I'm not even hungry. That's not good. It's not a good thing. And yeah, and then I remember also that school year, I just hated myself so much that I genuinely did not want to be here anymore. Like, living was just like the last thing that I wanted to do. It sounds so crazy for me to say now, and I know that I'm smiling, but I'm smiling because I'm grateful for the fact that God has delivered me from this. But at the time, it was awful. But yeah, I did not want to be here anymore. So there was basically one night where, long story short, I was ready to just basically, because I remember that day, I don't think I went to school. I think that was maybe like, it was during December holidays. It was right before the new year. And I remember I was just having a really lazy day. I was already having a bad day. And then something was said to me by someone. I was basically called lazy. I was like, get up and do something. And that made me feel even worse, because I was just like, I'm already feeling bad enough. So then, yeah, that night I was ready to just kind of, I guess, cut the cameras there and then. Like, I was ready. But then by the grace and by the mercies of God, I didn't. I didn't. I thank God. I actually thank God for my life. I didn't end up doing that. And yeah, and then I just kind of continued going about my year. I ended up getting mentoring or counselling, or whatever it was, and even in the next school year I ended up getting it again, because yeah, my mental health was just really not good. But then by the grace of God, when I came back after the summer holidays, after having like a rough school year, I ended up coming back, and then everything was actually calm for the last 2 years of secondary school. Like, I actually ended up becoming quite confident. I had quite a few friends and stuff like that. I didn't have a relationship in secondary school. I didn't really speak to boys. I remember one time someone literally someone thought I didn't like men. Someone thought I liked women because I didn't speak to boys. But genuinely, I think the reason why was, I think I tried to tell myself like, it's because I don't want anyone. It was genuinely because I didn't think anyone liked me, and I didn't receive attention from anyone, so I just assumed that no one liked me, no one found me attractive. So yeah, it wasn't a nice feeling, but I actually thank God in the long run, because I think it kept me from so much hurt. Like, young relationships will actually put you through it, put you through garbage. So I'm actually grateful that I didn't have to be put through that. But yeah, so that was kind of like my secondary school experience. It was honestly a roller coaster, but the last 2 years of secondary school are actually bliss. Like, they were fun. I don't really remember much apart from the fun part. Apart from that 1 year, obviously, where I was quite sad and depressed and just, yeah, lonely, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was young and I was confused, but I thank God for bringing me out of that. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that I'm out of that season. And then yeah, so then once I started college, I learned how to do my makeup, I learned how to do my lashes. I was really like, how's that go? And I actually quite liked my face now by this time. So I actually was starting to grow into my face. So I didn't really care. Like, as much as I learned how to do makeup, I didn't really need the makeup. I didn't need to go out with a full face. I didn't need to go out with lashes and stuff like that. Actually, I think there was a time where I'd started wearing lashes, and I was like, yeah, I can't leave the house without lashes. But yeah, I think that was kind of like a phase, and then I kind of got over it and stuff like that, because I actually quite started to like my natural face. I started to like go to the gym and stuff like that. But my gym story, and I think like even just like my eating habits and stuff like that, I think I want to actually do a separate video on that once I figure out what's going on now, because God has actually been teaching me a lot about insecurities, body dysmorphia, self-confidence, stuff like that, and I actually would love to do a video on that, but I'm still learning, so I will get onto that in a separate video. But yeah, I started going to the gym and stuff, and then first year of college was so fun, and then in my second year of college, I ended up getting a new job. I started working at a shoe store. You know, I was like, I'm that girl. Like, you know those girls that work in JD, and they're just like, cool. I was just like, I'm that girl. Like, I work in a shoe store. I have good friends. I'm making money. Like, I was, yeah. And where I worked also is where I ended up meeting someone, and I started talking to someone. So this is kind of where my testimony kind of starts, and my relationship with God started around this time as well. So towards the end of secondary school, I saw one of my older friends, and she was Christian, and I was like, okay, cool, this seems kind of interesting, let me look into it, you know. I had a Catholic church at the time that was also Lithuanian. I remember for 2 weeks of GCSEs I had gone. I kind of only went because I thought if I go to church, I'll get good grades. By the grace of God, I passed every single exam. So grace located me, and God even helped me in my exams, because yeah, Lord knows that I did not do the best. But yeah, and then literally around that time, I was like, cool, like I want to learn more about God. So I ended up buying a Bible, I think my first year of college. But I ended up buying one of like the old versions of the Bible. I was literally reading it like, what the heck is this? The only reason I got it was because it was pink. I didn't even know that there was different versions of the Bible. I didn't know that there was NIV, NKJV. NKJV is where it's at, sorry. But and I like NIV. But yeah, I didn't know that there was different versions. So yeah, and then in my second year of college, I ended up buying that big pink fat Bible. You know, that viral one, the girly one with the gold pages. I bought that one, the NIV version. And I was like, cool, like I want to start learning more about God. And yeah, I was doing like Bible studies here and there. I didn't have a ministry, I didn't have a church, apart from my like Catholic Lithuanian church, which I go to every once in a while. But I was working a lot. Like, I was actually working my ass off, genuinely. I was always working, because I think I always loved to work. I've been working from quite a young age. So even with like money and stuff like that, like I didn't realize that I idolized money a lot, because I was always like I was overworking myself. I was working like a few days in a row, long shifts. Like, there was even one time when my mom was actually like to me, sis, you need a break, because I remember I'd come into work and I was actually like dead. Like, I'd come in, no makeup, hair just up in a messy bun. I was just like, I don't care. Let me just get this work day done. So yeah, I actually idolized money a lot. I used to tap my card like it was nothing. But yeah, and then I also ended up meeting someone at that workplace. Obviously, at the time, I was quite oblivious, and I had just started seeking God. I didn't really know that to be a Christian means to have a relationship with God. I kind of just sort of read the Bible, pray here and there. That was it. I didn't know there was much more to it, to be honest. I didn't know about fasting. I didn't know about any of the books of the Bible, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think I was reading Matthew when I first started reading the Bible, because I think that's what I had everyone say to read. But whereby at that time I had met my ex, I thought like, God, like, I'm seeking you. I know you're bringing me a man. Life is good. Meanwhile, I did not know that it was actually a distraction the whole time. Sometimes when God brings you things when you're growing closer to him, really work out if it's from Jesus or if it's from something else that you don't want to even deal with. Because it was very much a distraction. But it was a very good lesson learned. So yeah, I ended up starting to go out on dates around my birthday time in December. And obviously I turned 18, so bear in mind that when I was in secondary school, I will say I was going to parties. Me and my friends, I was going to parties from like, I want to say maybe year 10, year 9, drinking. My friends would smoke as well, so yeah, I would dabble in that kind of stuff. But even when I went to parties when I was younger, I actually did not like drinking, funnily enough. I would have like one mixer and that was it, or one shot and that was it. I actually did not really like drinking, and I didn't want to get drunk either. But then when I turned 18, obviously I was legal, so get me in all the clubs. Get me. Going to the club for my 18th birthday. I think a few weeks before that we ended up going out as well. And we got really drunk. Like, that was my first time ever getting drunk, and I was like, what the heck? Like, what is going on? Yeah, so obviously when I turned 18, I was like, let me be fun, let me go out, let me party, let me drink. But God was actually convicting me the whole time, but through little things. The first thing that he convicted me of, which I thought I was doing my big one here, I would not wear my cross necklace to the club. Because one thing about me at the time was like, I didn't understand how people could wear something so openly, like a cross necklace, in a place where clearly God is not in. The fact that I subconsciously knew that Christ could not dwell in a place like that, yet I still went and I still partied and I still sung the secular music. Oh, I didn't even know secular music was a sin. I didn't know that secular music was wrong. I was still drinking, I was still partying, but I wouldn't wear my cross necklace, because I remember I literally said to someone, why would I wear something like that when I'm not in a place where God is? Like, I'm not about to do that. And I would even pray before going on nights out. And I'd literally ask God, like, God, please keep us safe, protect us. So by the grace of God, we were protected, we were safe the whole time. I actually had very smart friends. I still have those friends. I have very smart friends. So when we would go out, it wouldn't even be like we're going crazy. But yeah, so that was how God kind of started to convict me. And then there was even one time where I had gone to the club and I was very, very, very sober. And the things that I saw, I was genuinely like, there's just no way that this, like, I don't know how to explain it, but my spirit, man, my spirit felt off. Like, my spirit just felt off being in that place. So yeah, I kind of told myself that I just wouldn't go clubbing anymore in London. I just told myself, like, yeah, that's it. Because if you're actually trying to seek God, I knew that I couldn't go to those places. I did end up slipping and falling and going a couple times, but I kind of knew in the back of my head that this was something that I shouldn't be doing, to be honest. Let's try my tea. Oh my days, guys, I had such a nice breakfast today. It needs a bit more honey. I'm not bothered to get any. I think they're about to hoover the house. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys can still hear me. In April of last year is when I found my ministry. So I actually had a friend from secondary school who had been I actually had a friend from secondary school who had been trying to invite me to her church. But I was always busy. I was always working on Sundays, so I never actually had time. And then one week, I kind of just went into work and I told my manager, who by the grace of God was Christian, and I said to her, listen, I don't want to work Sundays anymore. I want to go to church. And she said, yes, sis, go ahead. Even that Sunday that I had taken, even that week that I had taken that Sunday off my availability, I remember I didn't even plan, like, I knew it was for the church, but that week I didn't even make the plans to actually go to church. And so I remember this one day, someone that I worked with messaged me and asked me if I could cover his shift. And I was like, no, I just took it off. Like, why would I cover your shift? Like, it's my day off. And then I remembered, oh my goodness, I'm just supposed to be going to church. So I felt like it was kind of like, almost like a test. Like, almost like, are you going to choose the money or are you going to choose God? And obviously, I messaged the girl from secondary school and I said to her, like, hey babes, like, send me the address. I'm gonna come on Sunday. So yeah, that Sunday ended up going to service, my first time. I literally bawled out my eyes like a baby. Like, when I tell you, the presence of God was there, everything was perfect, the things that they were saying was perfect. I needed to hear every single piece of that service. I needed to hear what they were saying in the administration, praise, worship, everything. It was just so powerful. And the reason I was so sad as well was also because around that time, so this was just a few weeks after Valentine's Day. Around that time, long story short, me and my ex had told each other that we loved each other, and we were starting to become very, very close. And just before that service, he had grown very distant. Another backstory, he was also Muslim, so we were very much unequally yoked. Yeah. And so he basically started to grow a bit distant from me because around that time was Ramadan, and he was leaving me undelivered for hours and hours and hours on end. I personally did not like that. One thing about me is I like communication. Now I don't take offense to these types of things, even when friends leave me undelivered, I really don't care. But I think because at the time of that relationship, this was my first ever boyfriend, I was kind of like, no, like, what is going on? We actually weren't boyfriend and girlfriend just yet, but yeah, this was my first ever talking, dating type of thing, and I was really starting to, what I thought, fall in love with him. Like, I was really loving his presence. He was everything that I wanted. He was funny, he was this, that, and the other. He showed me love. He would take me out. So when he now started to leave me undelivered, I was just getting so much anxiety. I was so confused as to why he was doing it. I was lost, and I felt like he didn't like me anymore, and I was so confused. And then I remember halfway during service, he actually called me, because I had tried to call him because I was very confused. I wanted to basically confront him about it that day, because service only started at 2 p.m. And then he ended up calling me halfway through service, and I called him and I told him, like, listen, like, you're being distant. And he told me why, this and the other. But he didn't even really seem like he was in the mood for that kind of conversation. So I was like, cool, whatever, let me just leave it. And then, yeah, things just seemed to not get better. Like, his responses were getting really bad, and I was starting to get a lot of just, like, discomfort and an anxiety because I was like, why is he not responding to me? Does he hate me or something? And one thing I will say, as much as my confidence grew within myself and within, like, my body and my face and, like, just physically, inwardly I was still very insecure. I was very insecure of, like, my personality. Even when I was younger, I hated how loud I was. I hated my bubbliness. I hated that I felt like I was too loud, and people would constantly tell me, like, you're too loud, you're too disruptive, all this and that and the other. And obviously there's some times where there's a time and place, but sometimes that's actually just me. Like, why you guys are coming for me? But yeah, and then one thing that I ended up becoming very insecure of was just my mind. I was constantly having mind battles about this man, to the point whereby I was actually going insane. I would go insane. And it only got worse, which I'll get on to later on. But yeah, I was genuinely losing the plot with this man. And he didn't know, because I would never tell him the times that I would overthink, the times that I think, oh my gosh, he hates me. Like, I would say one thing, he'd be in a bad mood, or like he'd have a really weird reaction. Promise you that the rest of that day I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I made him upset, I made him angry, I'm useless, I'm this, I'm that. I used to think that I was very unlovable. So in that relationship, he didn't know this, but I thought that if he ever found out how my mind actually was, he would genuinely run away, because I thought that I had gone crazy. Like, I genuinely didn't believe that someone could love me, because in my mind I was just overthinking about everything. And then yeah, so then I started going to the ministry for some time, and then one thing led to another, and I felt led to cut him off. Felt led to tell him, like, listen, this is not working. And so before I did, I decided to pray, and I prayed, God, if this is not the one, just remove him. Because the week, like, leading up to this prayer, he was just going about the same business, leaving me undelivered, being distant, not calling me, this and the other, and I did not appreciate it. So I was just like, listen, you're not about to do this to me, so let me pray. I kid you not, the next day he did something to irritate me. And I was like, right then, you gotta go. You got to go. You gotta go. So ended up cutting him off. I remember it was like during college, and I remember I came into school and I told my friends, like my friends had known what had been going on during the weekend. It was the weekend, something like that. Told my friends like, listen, I'm gonna cut him off. This has been happening. This has been happening. They told me, yeah, cut the man off. And so came into college, wrote out my paragraph, told him, listen, this is not working out for me. You'll be in this. Da da da. Let's leave it at that. Put my phone down. Even ended up asking ChatGPT for advice. ChatGPT was on my side as well. And I was with my friends the whole day. Had been crying the whole day, literally. Because after sending that message, he ended up leaving me on open. No response. Nothing. Open. And I knew where he was at the time. And I knew that he had the time to respond. And I was so hurt. Like, so then for a week straight, guys, I was going insane. Like, I was waking up crying. I would wake up in shambles. Like, you know, to think back now, I'm just like, how was I that upset? But genuinely during the time, I was like, this is the end of it all. Like, this is the end. Like, I'm never gonna find love again. Yeah, I was in shambles for like a week. My mum, like my whole family was starting to get really worried for me because they were like, is everything like alright with this girl? Like, she's just always crying. Like, my mum even ended up crying with me. My mum ended up crying with me at one point because we were both so sad. Because it was my first ever boyfriend. Like, I was like, what? Hello? Dad called me, my dad called me. And obviously, I knew that, you know, God wanted him to be removed out of my life because I literally prayed and then he was removed. But I still was not actually seeking God. Let me tell you, I actually was not. So then, yeah. And then about a week later, obviously me and him, we worked together. So we had a shift. And after a week of crying genuinely like I've never cried before. Like, you'd think that there was no tears left inside of me. It took one conversation and I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. I kind of just told him, like, you're not getting me back easily. I want to see you try. That man did not try. And I let him back. Like that. And then around that week that I was like, cool, like, let's start talking again. One of my friends that worked with me, he had 2 tickets to go to this prayer and deliverance service. He told me he prayed, he asked God, who should I invite? He said, God, place you on my heart. Come, let's go. I said, okay, cool, let's go. So we ended up going, and literally the pastor, it felt like the pastor was talking directly to me, everything that he was saying. And then they did an altar call, and this is my first ever altar call. And my friend was like, listen, we both need to go. And I was like, okay. And I wanted to go, but I didn't want to go alone. Like, I wasn't sure what to do. And my friend was like, let's just go. So I'm so glad that my friend said that. And then went to the altar, and I remember praying to God, listen. At this point, I knew, like, this is not my husband, this is not my man. I knew. So I was kind of like, God, I can't anymore with this. But please, can you just keep him as my friend? Because I can't actually cut him off like that. Like, I can't. Because I was so attached to him. Bear in mind, we had never done anything. We had never... Yeah. So, how I was attached... It has to be spiritual, like, I'm sorry, but the way that I was attached to this man is crazy. So I prayed, and then the next day or the day after, I ended up cutting him off. Literally the day before his birthday, I cut him off. And then, yeah, I cried again, and I just knew, like, God, you're gonna keep me. I know I'll be fine. But then, give it like a week, he messaged me again, and I was kind of like, okay, like, let's just get back together, because I was kind of like, this man, like, you keep pestering me, like, you keep trying, so maybe God wants us back together, who knows. So ended up getting back together with him. But then the second time round, everything just intensified. Like, my feelings, my mind battles, my overthinking, everything intensified so much. So yeah, it was good for like a little bit until it actually wasn't. Then he started just leaving me undelivered again. There was times where I would genuinely wake up in the mornings, I could not eat breakfast until he responded back to my message. Because there would be sometimes where I'd message him at like 7 p.m. the day before. It's 10 a.m. Where's my message back? I was like, guys, when I tell you, I was actually going crazy. Like, I was going sick over this man. Genuinely. And so that's why I thought, like, if you find out how I think, if you find out what I'm like, inwardly, you would hate me. And yeah, and then basically I ended up going to Santorini for my cousin's wedding. Beautiful place, by the way. Definitely a bucket list destination that you guys should go to. Honeymoon would be perfect. But anyways. And let me drink my tea. And so, oh, I feel like a proper YouTuber. Sorry. And so then sorry. And so then I was just like, cool. What happened? Yeah, so then I came back from my holiday and ended up inviting him over to my house. Yada, 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 yada. He ended up asking me to be his girlfriend. And I said yes. I said yes, let's go, girls. And then within that relationship, and a bit before I think as well, I can't really remember, just a little backstory. I had 3 dreams that he cheated on me. 3 different dreams. I told him about the dreams and he would just laugh and be like, what the hell? Like, I would never do that. But yeah, I had 3 dreams that he cheated on me. And obviously at the time I was just thinking like, the devil's such a liar. Like, the devil's just trying to tell me that this man's gonna cheat on me. Like, that's not about to happen. Guys, when I tell you, one thing that I pray that someone will hear from this testimony is the grace, the mercy, the love, and the kindness and the patience of God. His mercy was really with me throughout my entire relationship with that man and throughout this entire journey. His patience was really there. Because for me to go back to someone twice, I almost denied Jesus 3 times, just like Peter did. And God was still patient with me. So if you're going to get something from this testimony, just see how much God actually loves his children and how patient he is with them and how he actually wants us in the kingdom of heaven. That's my God. Anyways, so then, yeah, I ended up coming back. He asked me to be his girlfriend. We became boyfriend and girlfriend. And then about a month later, I went on holiday again. I went on holiday with my friends and it was so fun. Obviously, at the time, I was still very lukewarm in Christ. Also, another little thing, I would only ever go to Sunday services. I didn't really have a relationship with God during this time. I was just kind of like a Sunday service kind of goer, do Bible study here and there, you know. I can't even remember if I had a prayer life. I genuinely can't remember. It's been blanked out of me. But I think I prayed like here and there, do you know what I mean? And I would only stay for fellowship on Sundays later to now see my ex after he finished his shift because he worked not far from my church. He also lived not far from my church at all. So I would go see him after church, bear in mind for like 20 minutes maybe, 10 minutes sometimes, 5 minutes maybe, for barely any time. I would go see him. So yeah, that's the only reason I stayed for fellowship as well. By the grace of God, I actually really liked everyone at church. I thought everyone was lovely. Even my first time coming, like I remember feeling so welcomed and so loved and so appreciated. I genuinely felt like they were my family and I had known them for little to 5 minutes and I was like, what the heck is going on? So yeah, I think the love and the fact that I knew that Holy Spirit's presence was there really kept me going back to this church. So I was still a Sunday girl. Like I'd go every Sunday. I wouldn't miss a Sunday, but that was about it. And then so when I went on holiday, obviously I went clubbing. I was drinking, clubbing, having fun with my friends, you know, stuff like that. And then right before I had gone on the holiday, my ex basically told me, like, I have something to tell you. He had ended up sending me, like, a massive paragraph, basically telling me his appreciation for me. One morning I just woke up to, like, a paragraph and I was like, wait, like, what's going on? And then he told me, like, I need to tell you something, by the way. But I'll tell you later on. Obviously, the whole day I'm pestering him, asking him, like, what do you need to tell me? Because I think he told me, like, maybe a day or two before my flight to my holiday. And literally the day that he told me he had to tell me something, I had like the most stressful day. I was struggling to pack. I was literally crying like, Mom, I need your help back. So it was like the worst time to tell someone like, I need to tell you something and then not tell them. But yeah, so then he ended up telling me when I was on holiday. And he basically, because he was Muslim and at the time he was starting to take it more seriously, he basically told me like, we need to have an Islamic marriage. Yeah. And I was like, how have I? When did I? And what? I feel like I said that so quickly with no suspense, but yeah, he basically like said to me like, I want to seek my relationship I want to take Islam seriously, so we have to marry basically for me to be with you. And I didn't know what to say. I literally started crying because I was like, marriage, what? So I was like, right, okay. And so then yeah, and then obviously bless him, honestly, bless his coin socks, he actually didn't know any about it as well. Yeah. And so then after that, I remember the next day at the beach, I literally was crying the whole time. I remember thinking I was on Love Island because I was crying at the beach with sunglasses on my face, like one of the workers had to bring me water and tissues because he was like, "This is going through it." Bear in mind, I'm at a nice beach in Albania, clear water and blue skies, everything. And yeah, and I remember just speaking to my friends like, guys, I don't know what to do. They were giving me advice. My friends were actually so good to me on this trip. Like, I want to thank God for the friends that he kept around me, and for where I was when I was told. I was literally on holiday and I was having fun with my friends, and I had so much love around me and so much support around me. But yeah, and then basically ended up like coming to the conclusion that I wasn't gonna say yes or no. I was just gonna tell him like, I need to meet your family and then we'll figure it out. But I need to meet your family like for like a few times, and I was in my head I was gonna take a year or like 2 to make my decision. But deep down, even whilst I was at the beach that day, I was just saying to myself, do I leave now or do I leave later? Do I cut him off now? Do I stay? Do I marry? What do I do? Because I knew that deep down I couldn't go through with an Islamic marriage whilst also being Christian. I knew that it wouldn't work, and I already wanted out of that relationship deep down, but I didn't know how to leave. Like, one thing that I would pray about a lot was for God to actually remove him if he wasn't right. At one point I even asked God, like, listen, I'm too weak. Have this man break my heart so that I never look back. And yeah, and then that night ended up calling him before going out to the club, and I told him like, listen, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. This is my answer. There you go. Have it there. Then ended up going out, and then I came home that night, ended up calling him. We were on the phone. Everything was fine. Bear in mind that whole trip, he was being really lovey-dovey. Like, showing me a lot of just like love. And then go to sleep. It's like 5, 6 a.m. And he calls me. And he basically confesses that he cheated on me. And I was like, so you just asked me to marry you and now you cheat? Like, what the heck's going on? And so obviously I cried. I bawled my eyes out on the phone to him for like an hour or 2 early in the morning. And I was literally like, what the heck is going on? He told me what happened. He told me the details. I'm not going to go into the details. But yeah. And then I was just like, that'll do it. That will actually do it. So then obviously I broke up with him. I was like, well, obviously this is not gonna work. Like, you just cheated on me, mate. Like, this ain't gonna work. And so I cut him off. And then my friends were all asleep. So I went with my friend and her sister. So I went into my friend's room, well, into our room. I woke her up. I kid you not. She probably thought someone died. I've never seen my friend look so worried in my entire life. I was literally sobbing so much to the point whereby I couldn't breathe. Like, I couldn't speak. I lay down on the bed. She was hugging me. I was like, he cheated on me. And then she was like, what? Told her everything. Also, a little backstory. Literally right before he told me, I think, okay, so deep down, I think a part of me believes that he told me out of kind of fear, but that is nothing to do with me. That is between him and whatever. But literally right before, I think maybe like 2 days before he told me, we found out that him and my friend, the friend that I was on holiday with, his sister went to the same secondary school. But my friend's sister didn't remember him, but my friend's sister's friend remembered him and told us some information about him. So it was so crazy how God actually aligned everything. Like, God revealed something to me about him from when he was in secondary school. I got told a few things. And then the next day he asked me to marry him, and I'm like, what the heck? And then the next day he tells me that he cheated on me. Yeah, it was just crazy how everything came full circle and together. And God was really just telling me like, sis, you prayed, I'ma answer. let me pull you out of that relationship. So yeah, and then basically for the rest of the holiday, I kind of just put it off. Me and my friends were just having fun on holiday, going out partying. We made friends and stuff like that, and then yeah, came back to London. I actually ended up extending my stay in Albania for some time because my family were all back home in Lithuania, and I knew that when I come back, I'm gonna be alone. So I ended up extending my stay, but then even when I came back, I still had like a few days alone. I remember the day that I came back, bawled my eyes out like a baby. I remember I actually had his MacBook, and the day that I flew back home, he actually messaged me basically telling me like, you can keep the MacBook. And I was like, oh my God, just letting me keep your MacBook, okay. And then we ended the conversation there. But then yeah, when I came back, I ended up being really sad. I cried the first day that I came back. I was on the phone to my best friend just bawling. Ended up ordering Domino's at night. And I was not seeking God at all. Even on the holiday, I prayed like maybe once or twice on a Sunday, and then that was it. Other than that, I didn't pray. And then I prayed at one point at the beach. I went into the water by myself, and I was just swimming, and I just started talking to God, and I started thanking him for the fact that he pulled me out of the relationship. And I knew that God was going to help me. And yeah, I was just thanking him. But that was about the only time that I really spent time in God's presence. And then ended up spending the weekend when I was back in London with my friends. We ended up going out again and stuff like that. And then after a while, I was just like, okay, cool. I know God wants me to seek him, so let me seek him. So then I started to take God seriously more. I started to go to like midday, weekday services, Bible studies, prayer and deliverance, Sunday services as well. And then as well during the time, I still had his laptop, but even just looking at it made me feel sick. I never opened it, never touched it. So I ended up giving it back to him actually, ended up seeing him, and then we ended up getting back into contact for some time. But then I ended up cutting him off, thank God. But yeah, so that was the end of that relationship. And then how I started to seek God was that, so yeah, like I said, I was like, cool, let me seek God now. Give it like 2 weeks of me pushing. I then ended up going back into the world, ended up going back to the club. I went on like a few weekends out, and then I was like, I literally cannot do this anymore. One thing that I noticed was that whenever I would go clubbing in London, I'd feel the worst spiritual warfare for about 2 weeks. So every time that I'd gone clubbing in London, I think every time I was not in the right headspace for like 2 weeks. So after I'd gone to the club, the same feelings that I had felt in year 9 and like the insecurities and the not wanting to be alive, literally all of that came back to whereby I was waking up every morning not wanting to be alive. I was very sad. I just obviously stopped speaking to my ex. I was going through it. And so yeah, that's when I finally was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I chose God. And ever since then, I've just been seeking Jesus. I think this journey that I've been on with Christ has taught me so much. And I thank him for my testimony. I thank him for where he's brought me from. Even when I was in the relationship, like before, I was such an independent person. I loved my own space. Once I got into the relationship, I hated being alone. I always depended on others. So I want to thank God even for like helping me to be in my own space, to the point whereby I now have such a strong and genuine relationship with Jesus that I can just tell him and run to him at any point. I don't just need to come to him when I'm sad. I can come to him when I'm happy, when I'm mellow, when I'm this, that, and the other. So I thank him because yeah, became like I went from like being so independent and loving my own space to hating being by myself, because every time I was by myself, I had mind battles, had anxiety, I was stressing out. But I thank God for delivering me from mind battles. I thank God for delivering me from so much and for actually showing me his love. I don't know how God has healed me. I don't know how I am where I am. I don't know how my heart has become so soft. I don't know how I've forgiven the people that I've forgiven. I genuinely don't know how. It's only by the grace and the mercies of God. And that is something that I can testify to, that Christ has really made a change in my heart. And I just want to glorify him in every way possible, because I would have not gone to where I am now if it wasn't for him. He healed me so much faster than I thought that I could be healed. He has done so much for me in my life, and I thank him, because before I didn't know that to seek God means to have an actual genuine relationship with him. But that's actually all he wants from us. He just wants us to love him. Like, yeah. So that's my testimony. Yeah, I dropped all the partying, I dropped the drinking, I dropped the smoking, I dropped the boys, I dropped everything. I dropped it all. I dropped the smoking, I dropped the partying, I dropped the drinking. I dropped it all for Jesus. And it has been the best decision that I've ever made. I've never felt so much peace, never felt so much joy. Like the joy that the world brings, the Lord has brought 10,000 times better, if not millions times better. So, yeah, that's my testimony. I hope this helped someone, even if it just encouraged someone to pray or to read their Bible. I think, yeah, just know that Jesus loves you, and whatever you're stuck in right now, he can actually help you. And if someone in your life right now is trying to correct you of your ways, take that correction as a privilege. Because if God didn't want you to know that the way that you're living is bad, he simply wouldn't tell you. He wouldn't bring people into your life to tell you. So please listen, because he's calling you back. And yeah, surround yourself with wise counsel. And yeah, I thank God. I really thank God for his presence and for his love. And I just love him. But yeah, guys, just to wrap it up, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I hope that you guys took something from it, and go pray, go read your Bible, like go seek Jesus, because he's actually your lover, your father, your maker, your savior, your father, and he loves you. And I just love Jesus, and I love being his princess. Like, hello, did you not know that I'm my father's princess? Yes, I very much am. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. God bless you all, and I will see you guys in the next one.